welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to do my July wrap-up. In July, I managed to read 29 books, and I've already talked about 10 of them in my Reading Rush wrap-up, so this will be the other 19. I think in the Reading Rush wrap-up, I said that I only read 27, but math is hard, and so I actually read 29. So these are the other 19 books that I managed to read during July. So let's get started. The first book I'm going to talk about is No Ivy League by Hazel Newvant. This is a graphic memoir that I received through Edelweiss in exchange for an honest review. This graphic novel comes out on August 20th. This graphic novel follows Hazel as she spends a summer cleaning ivy from trees, and she kind of comes to realize that she was put there as an example for at-risk teens. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I feel like this story kind of bit off more than it could chew, and while this is a memoir about Hazel's life, I feel like it is overall underdeveloped in her awakening that she has in regards to her realization of why she is here at this summer project, and so I only ended up giving it 3 stars. Next, I read Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, which I received an e-arc of through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. This book has since been released. I originally gave this book 4 stars, however, I've since bumped that rating down to a 3. This book, I was really intrigued by the premise of Project Runway meets Mulan. I really loved the concept of a sewing competition. The first few lines of this book really had me hooked. However, towards the middle, this book became very bumpy very fast. After thinking it over, I ended up lowering my rating, and that's why it is a 3 over a 4. Next, I picked up Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. This comes with a catchline, sometimes dead is better. I've kind of come to realize that long versions of Stephen King are not for me, but I still pick them up because there are spooky parts in them, and I have some very complicated feelings about this book, especially the protagonist in it. I really could not find anything rootable about him, and sometimes they're made that way, and sometimes they're just really sucky, so I ended up giving this book 3 stars. Next, I read Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I received an e-arc of this through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. This book comes out on September 3rd. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. It follows a woman who has to work at this Renaissance kind of fair in exchange for her niece to be able to participate as well. Meets this man who's in charge of the Renaissance fair, and in character they really get along, but outside of character they don't. Like I said, I gave this book 5 stars. This book is set in Maryland, which I always love to see, even if it is a fictional place in Maryland. This romance is super cute and super swoon-worthy, and she does a really good job of establishing the atmosphere of a Renaissance fair, when the place, which is a very big part of the plot, has just as much depth and characteristics as the characters in the story. Next, I read The Last Wish, which is the first book in the Witcher series. This is actually a set of short stories that kind of gear you up to going into the Witcher series. It is a very large and expansive series, and the first couple of books are actually short stories, kind of gearing you up to know the characters. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I didn't love all the stories involved in the set, which kind of hindered my being able to give it a 5 star, especially since I, at the beginning, was very confused with the first story. So I ended up giving this one a 4, but I'm very much so looking forward to continuing on. Next, I read The Lost Boy by Christina Henry. This is a Peter Pan retelling told through the perspective of Captain Hook. I've actually never read a Christina Henry book prior to this one, however, I figured this one would be a good place to start. Christina Henry is known for very dark retellings, and so I was very eager to pick this one up, and it did not disappoint. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really was hoping for it to be a little bit longer, that way I could be in this eerie atmosphere a bit more, and so we could spend more time understanding these characters and their motives. So I only gave it 4 stars, but I definitely am interested in picking up more works by this author in this very eerie, dark retelling genre that she has crafted out for herself. Next, I read The Stolen Throne. This is the first book in a prequel series to the Dragon Age video game series. This follows Merrick as he is trying to regain the throne. I ended up giving this 4 stars. This was actually a reread for me. I really do think this is a great prequel, and I love the world building in this, and I feel like it is a great addition to the games. Next, I read Dragonbound. This is a dragon shifter series that starts with a woman stealing something from a dragon and kind of going on the run. This book I ended up giving 3 stars. It has insta-love and macho man-y kind of character, which I kind of was expecting from a dragon, but it was so over the top that it made it less enjoyable than I was expecting it to be, so I only ended up giving this one 3 stars. Next, I read The Screaming Staircase, which is the first book in the Lockwood and Company by Jonathan Stroud. This was probably given if you watched my Newt's TBR video, especially since I said I wanted to read the 4th one in this series. This is a series following a group of kids who are basically trying to extinguish ghosts because kids are the only people who can actually hear ghosts, and certain kids have special abilities that let them be better ghost hunters. I ended up giving the first book in this series 5 stars. I think it is a great start to the series, and it gives you a great feel for these characters. And me and my partner have been listening to the audiobooks together, and so it's a nice way to bond with my partner as well, so I do have that additional enjoyment factor going into it. Next, I had another 5-star read for me, and that is Confessions. I don't want to say too much about Confessions. It is a Japanese translated work, and it starts with a teacher saying that she knows 2 students killed her daughter, and that's all I'm really going to say about it. I think it's got a lot of twists and turns, and it kind of like kept me on the edge of my seat, and I couldn't stop reading it, and I gave it 5 stars, and I definitely recommend checking it out if it sounds at all interesting to you. Next, I read The Crystal Shard, which is the first book in the Icewind Dale trilogy, but the 4th book overall in the Legend of Drizzt series. Basically, every series in this is its own trilogy, but overall it's got its own expansive world. And I ended up giving it 3 stars. I can kind of tell that it was the first book written, and therefore all of the things that I kind of enjoyed about the writing style haven't been worked out in this particular book. I feel like he hasn't gotten his groove. I only kind of enjoyed it in this one, and so I only ended up giving it 3. I still plan on continuing on with this series, however. Next, I read The Great Trouble, which is about the cholera outbreak in 1854 in Broad Street, and I totally read this because of that premise. I think that I had higher expectations, and I didn't know much about how this author wrote. I only ended up giving this book 3 stars. It's on me, not on the book. I definitely think she did a good job covering this event. However, I don't think she did a good job with the story elements, so I only ended up giving it a 3. Next, I read Hot and Badgered, which is a honey badger romance series. It's got shifter hybrids, mystery, romance. The series was literally made for me. I gave it 4 stars. It was made for me. I didn't like some aspects of it, but I definitely plan on continuing on in the series. Next, I read The Merciful Crowd by Margaret Owen. I received an e-arc of this through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. This book has since come out. I don't know exactly how to describe this book. It is super fascinating, and I definitely recommend you checking it out. Like, this cover looks interesting to you. It's an amazing fantasy book. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. The only thing that keeps it from being a 5 is that one of the characters takes some time for me to grow on. That's literally the only thing that kept it from being a 5-star for me. The next book I read in the month of July was The Whispering Skull by Jonathan Stroud. This is the 2nd book in the Lockwood & Company series. I just talked about the first one, but the 2nd book follows a different mystery, and basically I didn't like the 2nd mystery as much as the first mystery, so I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next, I read The Black Mage, which I received an e-arc of through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. This comes out on October 29th. This is pitched as School for Good and Evil meets Dread Nation. It involves race, history, and magical schools. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I felt like it could have used a little bit more pages to explain the magic system and to make the story feel a little less rushed towards the end. However, I really enjoyed this story. I think it does a good job of commentating on everything the author is trying to talk about, while also being a fun comic, and I really enjoyed it overall, so I'm giving it 4 stars. Next, I read Shatter the Sky by Rebecca Kim Wells. I received an e-arc of this through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. However, this has also already come out. This is a sapphic romance that has dragons, and please pick it up if any of that sounds interesting to you, because yes. And it's about a girl who does not think she is the one who can do the thing. Yes, I gave this book 4 stars. The only thing that keeps it from being a full 5 is it definitely has some of those standard fantasy trope things going on in it, and therefore it could feel kind of generic at times. However, it is so good, so sapphic, so yes. Please pick it up. Next, I read City of Brass, which was the loosely bound book club pick of the month. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. It is set in 18th century Cairo, and it is a fantasy book, and I think that this book is a slog to get through in the beginning part because of how thick it is, and I think it could have used less pages and it would have been a little bit better, and I ended up giving it 3 stars as a result, and I'm not sure if I'm going to continue on in the series. So there's that. And the very last thing that I read in the month of July was The Tea Dragon Festival by Katie O'Neill. This I received an e-arc of through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review, and it comes out on September 17th. This is a prequel sequel to her Tea Dragon Society, and it is really cute, and I honestly love the tea dragons that Katie O'Neill has created, this world. I just love that she has a guide at the end, so she doesn't have to over explain things as you're going. I can't wait for what this author does next. Alright, so that is everything everything that I read in July minus what I read during the reading rush. What about you? What did you read in July? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like what you saw here today, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching and have a nice day.